Hello, good evening and welcome to tonight's Regeneration, Culture, Environment, Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Firstly, for item 1, have we got any apologies for absence today? Councillor James?
Yes, if it's Wednesday, it must be Regen, Culture and Environment, and I'm substituting, I think, for Councillor Amination.
Thank you, Councillor James. Councillor Brake?
Yeah. Councillor Filmer, I'm here substituting for him, and we believe that Councillor Fern is probably running late tonight.
He is running late. Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you. Item 2, record of the previous meeting. Can I sign the record of the meeting held on the 23rd of January 2025 as correct? Thank you very much. Thirdly, urgent matters. I believe there are none. Item 4, are declarations of disclosable pecuniary interests and other significant interests. Are there any such declarations? Okay, thank you very much. So on to item 5, the first item of substantial business. This is the Waste Contracts Annual Review, October 2023 to September 2024. Alex Constantinitis, would you like to introduce this item, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Chair. Good evening, members. Yes, this is our annual review of our waste contracts, and it's a summary of performance during the contract year 2023, which is October to September 2024, for the domestic waste service. Can I, first of all, introduce colleagues who have kindly come along, and I'm joined here by Andy Mann, the Partnership Director for Medway North, Natasha Spencer-Jones, Waste Disposal Manager, Joanna Dixon, Waste and Resource Programme Manager, and Amy Mason, Waste Operations Manager. This is the reason why we've got such a wonderful authority and a clean authority. Well done. Chair, the report focuses on Veolia, who provides waste disposal services for residual and recycling waste, and Medway North, who provides domestic waste collections and street cleansing services, and manage our 3 household waste recycling centres. I think it's important to mention that the contract follows the Council's core values relevant to the contract year to ensure that we have services that put our customers at the heart of everything we do, and at the same time giving us value for money and fits with a strategic priority of a clean and green environment. Section 4 of the report, Chair, is describing the waste and recycling collection and street cleansing services carried out by Medway North. Section 4.11 are some of the key contract achievements during 23-24, and Section 5 of the report describes the waste disposal contracts, for example, residual and recycling disposal, that are carried out by Veolia. And I have to say, Veolia do a grand job as well as Norse. Well done, especially under real constrained facilities that we have in terms of the waste transfer station. So the domestic waste is one of a few universal services impacting every resident of our authority. And if I can just point out a few key achievements, which include working in partnership with Norse to develop a charged green waste subscription service for the spring of 2025, £12 million spent on replacing our 46 ageing vehicles that are now being delivered, the new ones now being delivered, between January and June of this year. And I have to say the programme is on schedule, unless anyone else says. And, you know, this is a great achievement. We're getting our new vehicles in. Veolia achieved 100% diversion rate for the financial year 23-24, meaning none of our black sacks were sent to any landfill sites, which is, again, a great achievement. and I believe it's the second year in a row. We had around 168,000 visits to our 3 HWRCs. This is a 2% increase from last year. Again, this is a really good achievement, and it's maintaining a 64% recycling rate for the second year in a row. Some other bits are pulled out from the report, Chair. There was a total of just under 17.5 million collections during 23-24. Of this, there was 5,423 missed collections. This is a 0.03% of the overall collections. Total tonnages collected for our authority was 98,291, and the total number of standard bulky collection slots provided was just under 12,500. Total number of fly tip removals incidences was in the region of 4,700. In terms of the Christmas collections, I think it's really pertinent to mention that following the difficulties we experienced last year, for this year, 24-25 just passed, the collections were scheduled over a 3-week cycle, prioritising recycling and residual waste. Medway North completed all waste collections as planned, and this equated to more than 730,000 individual collections over a 15-day period. That is absolutely brilliant. Well done. Collection crews experienced no delays, and the transfer station operated as planned, again under constrained circumstances at the waste transfer station. The crew there were fantastic, getting rid of all our waste. So I'd like to take this opportunity, Chair, to recognise the hard work of, probably more than 300 frontline service staff who deliver waste services firsthand in our great authority Medway, including collection and cleansing operatives, transfer station and disposal staff, HWRC operatives and council officers. If I may leave it there, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you for that the detailed report. Very useful to see. Are there any members who would like to speak on this item? Councillor Lawrence.
Thank you, Chair. I think undoubtedly our waste collection is the diamond in our, not rough, but in our crown of service. I think a lot of residents in other places would love to have the type of refuse collection service that we have. And I, from the Conservative group, would applaud the performance of the team. And good to see that last Christmas was a one-off. But these things are sent to challenge us, aren't they? So I think we've responded really well. I just had a couple of really minor questions. I noticed that lots of numbers in here, but the tonnage of collection is sort of flattening off or even going down, as is the tonnage of recycling. I was quite surprised. I thought it would naturally be going up. Is there any reason that might be? That was my first question. And the other question was, I know the Labour administration wants to charge for a second brown bag collection. I noticed that the actual revenue for that is only 20,000. I wonder what we spent in actually trying to organise that. And does the revenue justify the cost and no doubt the operational issues around how we might manage that? But can I just reiterate what a great service. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll just take the first part of the question, if I may, Councillor. I think the work behind the scenes with the comms messages that go out there does have an impact, and I think that's why we're experiencing slight drop in tonnages, but we can do, obviously, as residents, we can do better. So I'll pass the second part of the question to Natasha. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Alex. That's going to be part of my job going forward as Waste and Resources Strategy Waste and Resources Manager, rather, giving myself a new job title. It's about making sure that our residents recycle as much as they can, and that's a trend that you've identified in terms of our performance over the recent years. Our recycling rate has been declining, which I'm sure Natasha will want to comment on, but certainly going forward in my role as Waste and Resources Manager, then we will look to try and change that trend.
Yeah, I'd just add to that. Why our tonnage isn't changing overall, I can't answer that. It's a shame that recycling isn't going up. We need our residents to sort of come on the journey to support with that. But yeah, why the tonnage overall isn't changing, I can't comment.
Sorry. I think, Councillor Lawrence, from a collection point of view, the one thing the crews very much report back and does reflect in the figures is the swing in the use of glass. So glass is the big, heavy item in the recycling stream, and we've gone through a good transition into, and you'll see the fibre actually weights are up, where there's a lot more packaging coming into houses and bits and pieces. What we're collecting is probably gone up in recycling, but down in weight. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some counterintuitive stuff there, isn't there, really? In terms of recycling, I think the number of messages have gone down. I don't recall seeing a lot of recycling messages, to be honest. Now, whether we can use a bit of social media on a regular basis, it doesn't cost a lot to post stuff on through our site, social media. I also think maybe schools would be very interested in projects, especially primary schools. The primary schools that I'm involved in have run lots of projects, are called palm oil projects, and all of a sudden the kids weren't buying Nutella anymore. Or their parents weren't buying Nutella anymore. So I think if we can maybe think about that messaging, it needs to be constant. I'm happy to admit in my household, I'm the only one who recycles. I'm going through the bin to put it in the recycling. My young people don't do it very well. You didn't answer the question on the additional brown bin stuff, the new collection. I know this is looking back, but I would be interested in that because I'm sure you've had to do a bit of work around that. And I had one more comment. I noticed since we introduced the booking system for the waste collection centres, and I think that came out of the COVID, they seem very, the one near me, which is Hoath Way, seems very empty. It used to be people queuing out the door, but every time I drive past there, they seem less busy. And I wonder whether there was, if it's appropriate and we've got the space, we could have a queue for people who've booked and a queue for casual turn-ups, so that we're making sure that we're making full use of those facilities. Now, I'm sure the waste numbers that you're showing show there is no drop-off, but it strikes me fly tipping is a real problem in our borough, and if people had the opportunity to casually turn up, that actually we might reduce some fly tipping opportunities. Thank you.
I do brown bins first. So I think if I'm right, your question was about the charge and the efforts justifying the cost and the operational changes. So one of the costs we'll have in year one is the capital cost of the bin. But clearly, if you were somebody who wanted to subscribe and you subscribed in year two, then we would be then into the profit side of things. So there's that side of the capital versus the revenue costs. We haven't started to run the service yet, and I'm sure we'll be producing financial reports once we've actually begun. We're just in the commissioning stages right now, looking to go live, still on track for springtime with Andy and the new vehicles. There is a point, if you see the new vehicles, you'll notice there's information on both sides of them. And right now, our organic fleet is the first to actually roll out, and it has two messages, one for recycling, one for climate change. So that doesn't quite answer your point on the other issues, and we can come back and provide that separately. It's hard at this point, without having introduced the service, to say about those costs, but I think it's considering the operational side versus the capital side. But I'm sure, as Andy would also point out, we drive past every home home in Medway collecting your organic waste right now. So unlike other councils, I think we're probably one of the few, certainly no one in Kent has got a free garden service, and there are very few people that still have a weekly free collection of garden and food waste in the country. So we're one of the few, and this change manages to preserve that service so that for most people who don't generate additional waste, they're not going to have to pay to subscribe. But for those who have got bigger gardens or who are keen gardeners, then they can choose to subscribe if they wish. Obviously, they could compost or visit the HWRC, but it gives them that convenience if they'd like. So hopefully that answers your point. Thank you.
Just to come in on your comment about the booking system, happy to look at ways of doing things differently. I would say that one of the many benefits of a booking system is that it helps us to manage queues differently. So whilst you might not be seeing lots of queuing out there, actually that's as a result of us being able to really manage those queues within the site. So yeah, and you'll notice from the figures that, you know, we're considerably less bookings than the number that we've got available, but certainly we'll take that forward. Thank you.
If I can just come in on the... It was on? That's better. Sorry. Yeah, but pre-COVID, we had real problems with health and safety queuing outside the sites. We also had a number of incidents within the sites. The booking system, with people reversing in to go to base, the booking system has removed all of that. And I think there would be a real danger if we went back to that second stream entry of non-booked, that we go back to creating a health and safety issue. So I'd encourage us not to. I was going to mention that the new, you know, it's great, the investment that's gone into the new RCV fleet. They're turning up, they are fantastic. And as Joe mentions, the branding on the side, or the ability to advertise, is looking good. And one other bit that is just about to start from a comms point of view is getting these new vehicles named, and I believe we're going to go to the schools, and so yeah, so there's a big push on the comms with schools at the same time. So yeah, I think it'll be a good thing.
Thank you. I would be delighted for our wonderful Prime Minister to be there, but let's go above party interests on that. Let's go to Councillor Etheridge, please.
Thank you very much. First of all, can I thank you for a very comprehensive and positive report. Most residents in Medway fully understand the process now of putting their bins out for collection during the week. They know how to do a bulky collection request. They know how to book a system to take stuff to the recycling areas themselves. One of the things we don't know as residents, and I don't know as a councillor, how often do we empty the street bins? And is there a cycle of time when they're supposed to be done? And if there isn't, could I make a request that in specific areas the numbers are increased, especially in the touristy areas such as Rochester, the Peninsula and the rural areas, and a QR code is put on them as well. So if people come along and see the bin is full and overflowing, they actually do use their phone and use the QR code to report it. So that's my first question. I'll wait for an answer to that, please.
Councillor Etheridge, yeah. So first of all, the QR code element, all of the street bins are QR coded, so that piece of reporting was embedded and is part of a bigger piece of work that between Medway North and Medway Council we're working on the bin strategy going forward and the cycles of collection. It's a piece of work that I believe that's in your new job sort of portfolio, Joe. Yeah, so I don't know if you want to mention anything on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Andy. So I think your question was about the frequency of the emptying. So we have around 1,400 litter bins. At any one time, some could be vandalised, so you can imagine the numbers go up and down. But we have around 1,400 litter bins, and they're all emptied at least weekly. Some are emptied as many times as 3 weekly. If you're on Rochester High Street, that's in the waste jargon, what we call a continuous cleanse. So if you're in any of our high streets, you'll probably have seen the operatives with the barrows. You might know your own barrow operative for your local area, and they are out there cleansing those and emptying those litter bins daily. And that operates now I'll get the number right, 364 days a year. So they're not out on Christmas Day, but they'll be out on your bank holidays in those areas, emptying the high street litter bins. I think you had another point to your question, but I'm sorry. Yes, so the QR code project, we started that back in 2022. But what we're not able to do is geolocate those barcodes. So if you can appreciate sometimes barcodes can be unique to a location, so you could click the button and it would take you straight to, I don't know, Rochester High Street bin outside Costa, for example. We're not quite there yet. We haven't got that level of technology for mapping each individual bin. But what would happen is if you were to look at the sticker that's on our bin, there's a little, actually I think it's quite a big QR code. It's a yellow sticker, slightly faded in the sunlight actually. And that will take you to a reporting process where you can report that that litter bin is full or you know, overflowing, whatever the issue is with that. You would still have to give the location details though, and still have to go through the form. And we appreciate the form, it's maybe not quite as quick as we might be used to if we were in a commercial environment, but the QR code is there on most bins. But should perhaps there be one in your ward or a local area that you've spotted and that's maybe been vandalised or removed, let us know. We've got a little stock of them, so between the team we can get out and re-sticker the bin.
Second question is, how can we help you in terms of either new developments or new schools where there aren't any bins currently and there should be? Is there a process that you're informed of these new developments or schools or areas that require additional bins? And how do we get that information to you?
I'm getting the hang of the button now. Thank you. So my colleague Amy has developed with her contract team a criteria around litter bins. Until I worked in this area, I'd done promotions, but I hadn't realised the intricacies of locating a bin. So it can perhaps be, is the pavement large enough? Is it a street bin that sort of stands on the ground? Is it one that's post-mounted? What's appropriate? Is there another bin in the nearby vicinity? So Amy, we can provide this afterwards. The team have got a guidance document, if you like, that can explain how you can go about requesting, and anyone can request a bin. So not just yourself, but any residents or visitors or businesses that think that maybe a bin would be suited in that particular location can tell us. We can go away and investigate, and that will include liaising with the contractor, the monitoring team looking if perhaps there's been complaints about litter, because we all know litter bins don't fix the problem of litter, do they? People will still drop litter right next to a bin. I'm sure we've all seen it, you know, the evidence is there. So it's not just about looking at that litter bin, but it's about making sure the cleansing frequency is right, and if necessary, what education needs to be done.
Thank you. Next, I'm going to go to Councillor Cook, please.
Thank you. Yeah, just to add, as others have said, I think it was such a positive report. I think you've really pulled that out tonight, and a huge thank you. I think we really can see the impact as residents of Medway. As you say, this absolutely affects everybody. I was having a little chuckle. I think Councillor Lawrence mentioned about the people knowing about recycling. I think there was a lovely media post on Valentine's Day about recycling your bottles. So this really is something that affects us all. And actually, when I started the report, and I started with the section on the kind of overarching strategy, the first question I wrote down was, is this ambitious enough? Because it was all about being compliant and meeting our statutory obligations. And so I was a little bit hesitant as I was going into the report of were we going to be about meeting compliance. And then what I read all the time was this constant push for recycling, for caring for the planet, for caring for our residents in the very best way. And that really came out. So I wonder even if we could revisit that first, I think it was section 2.3, around being more ambitious in what we're saying, because it's coming out in the report all the time. So that was just so positive. And then the other question I had as I read all the way through then came to in 8.2 around the carbon impact of disposal, because I can see that's something that as a team you're really aware of, but I can also see that at the moment the reason we're hitting so many of our targets is because our waste is being sent to really thoughtful places around where it should go, but some of those are Norfolk and Essex. So it sort of said here that it's yet to come, and I just wondered if there was any more update around where we are with that carbon footprint. Thank you very much.
So thank you for your question. The part that you're referring to is the Scope 3 emissions work that we're doing with our contractors is quite a challenging piece of work. So I assure you we are, we're on our way with that piece of work. Yeah, I would say with the distance that we travel as well, you are right, it's a shame that some of our material has to go so far away, but that's just because the processing facilities don't exist nearby. It would be so lovely to process that waste in Medway if we could, but there, you know, Medway and Kent, there aren't the facilities available. So yeah, you know, thank you for the question, and yeah, certainly we'll bring forward next year outcomes of that piece of work with the Scope 3 emissions.
Thank you.
Can I just add to It goes wrong, doesn't it? Sorry, if I could just add, the one bit that doesn't come out in the report that really should be acknowledged is the swing of the refuse that is going to incineration at Kemsley. Yeah. That is a lot closer, way, way closer than anything else around. But more importantly, that it's going into a full CHP process. So it is really efficient use of burning waste. Now, we know we don't want to burn waste in the first place, but it is probably the best of the best in terms of what's going on. And I think that should be kind of made a bigger example of, probably.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just echo Councillor Cook? It was such a brilliant, positive report. And if I've got this right, if I've got this wrong, and my dyslexic head's going a bit wrong today, bear with me. But on page 62, you doubled your target for compliments, which is amazing. Like, everybody knows how, you know, people are going to complain before they compliment. To it, like, double it and then one more is brilliant. And we missed out on the on the complaints being green by one. So just a quick summary is, what are the complaints on the ground still coming? Not that, just so we've got a view of it. Not, do we know? Just, is it missed refuse or?
Would it be possible if we could come back with some analysis rather than try and pull those figures out the air? We can turn that around really quickly. Amy's team tackle the stage 1 corporate complaints and stage 2 corporate complaints.
I don't want to turn this into a negative. I really don't, because them compliments, double the compliments to complaints is amazing. I just wondered if there was a general area that we could look at. That was it, but yeah, no, good.
No, and actually perhaps we could, if it would be okay, we could perhaps include that next year and give a little bit more granularity around the complaints and the stage 1 and stage 2 complaints and those types of things, because you can imagine we do quite a lot of analysis on that, and it leads to, we'll talk with Andy at the contract meetings about persistent complaints. We were interested always to dig into that information. So there are multiple areas like assisted collections we'll look into, clinical, actually we get very few clinical complaints, but clinical is another category. There's street cleansing, refuse, mess bins. Amy's telling me. So we've got quite a lot of detail there. So as you can imagine, rather than try and make it up on the spot, we'll get you the right figures.
Brilliant, and I'm sure it'll be green next year as well. So well done. I really can't emphasise it's such a good record.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell, please.
Yes, I'm going to join in with the congratulations from my colleagues on both sides. It's a very positive report, so thank you for that. I just had a quick observation on the QR code thing on bins. So I thought initially when I was told that bins have QR codes on them, I thought, fantastic, this is brilliant, great improvement. I'm really sorry to say, but because the geolocation doesn't work, it's really not that user-friendly, it's not that helpful, because I found myself, I'm out walking in the evenings, and I've only got use of one hand because I've got my dog in the other hand, and I just can't make it work. It goes to a link, and that form is not mobile interface friendly. It's not. So I've kind of given up on that. I've tried a few times reporting bins, and it doesn't work. And then I end up now just taking a quick picture, coming home and emailing in. This is quicker. And I know other constituents say the same thing. So it sounds like an improvement, but not there yet. But you kind of recognize that, John. I already said that we need to get that geolocation going. I have a couple of small questions. I know it's a very, very small proportion of collections that are missed, but what are the reasons some collections are missed? Because looking at the data overall, of course, it's 0.03% or something like that. But of course, if my bin collection was missed 1 week, it would be disastrous for me. I don't know what I'd do, but just I don't know how to handle that. So, you know, what are the reasons some of the bin collections are missed? I was wondering.
Yeah, I can answer that. So, obviously, when you're familiar with a round, it's great because you go to the same place every week. Unfortunately, we have holidays, we have sickness, we have cover, and when a crew is covering or a driver is covering, sometimes there are little corners on the various routes and rounds that are not familiar, and they do drive past and they do miss with no deliberate ploy. It's just they're ignorant to where because they're not used to that round. The other side of it is every now and again, when there's an urgent road closure or there is a implication parked vehicles and we cannot reverse in and get to. Now, the crews will pick and carry out, and they do a fantastic job dragging waste out from properties that probably they shouldn't, but they do from a manual handling point of view. But it has an implication, and those very, very, very low missed bins are often a result of one of those two things. It's very rare that we get a repeat missed bin in the same location, which kind of indicates that it's very much that just accidental driving past piece that is most of the time.
I was doing so well. If I could just add as well, sometimes parking can be an issue, and we all know, I'm sure we've all been possibly caught behind a refuse truck when you can see them going along, they move slowly, parked vehicles, if you've got narrow roads, that can be difficult. But particularly around flats, because if you can imagine if you've maybe got a busy car park area, the operatives aren't just picking up from the curbside location, they've got to get into the bin store, be able to move that bin safely for themselves and not damage vehicles, not damage property. So sometimes it can be, I think parking is often with flats one of our more significant issues. So that can be one of the reasons too.
I've noticed both of those things that you've said. My street, it's an absolute miracle every week that the refuse truck makes it down. I have no idea. Nobody's car gets scratched. It's absolutely miraculous. And I have to say, the bin collection staff who come down my street, they are just so lovely. They're so courteous. I'm often that person in my pajamas running out and the truck's just gone there. And you know, they always wait for me, and sometimes some of them walk back and take my rubbish. In one instance, I hadn't put the brown bin up to the curb. It was just in the front of my house. And one of them walked up and took it out and emptied it and put it back. And I was just so stunned. Like, they clearly go above and beyond. It's really worth noting that. I have one more small question. I noticed that the number of clear sacks that are being distributed is quite low. Is that deliberate? Because people seem to run out of them quite quickly. And not everyone likes using those reusable bags. They do kind of fly away and they don't hold a lot compared to the sacks. So is that a strategy to cut down on the use of plastic? Because I think it's every 13 weeks or something now that those the clear bags are distributed.
It's not a strategy, it's part of our contract that was determined back in 2010. So when the contract specification was let originally, it was around using reusable bags and using clear sacks as a top-up. So we're probably one of the few authorities that has those two options. Certainly in Kent, most you're limited to either a bin or a bag. We have something a little bit different in Medway, a little bit of both. So the idea of the clear sack is to be used as a top-up to the blue and white bags. And of course, you'll know the reason why we want people to separate their waste and have those blue and white bags rather than clear sacks is to separate their paper and card. It's better for the environment and better financially for us in terms of the gate fees and our disposal. That's why we've got twin-sided vehicles to be able to separate that material. But we also recognise, and councillors back in the day recognised, that we were transitioning from a blue co-collected sack approach, and so they decided to keep clear sacks. So the frequency was set at that point and it's continued on. We do provide clear sacks through the libraries for residents to top up, but we like every department, I'm sure, in every committee, we haven't got unlimited funds, so we have to limit those funds. And we found, actually, Amy and her team have found it works better with Andy to say we deliver a set amount of material every month. That way the libraries know what they're getting, and it doesn't happen that you get more in one month than the other. So that's why they're delivered. If you perhaps go to the library, or your constituents or neighbours go to the library and they say there aren't any there, that's why we do deliver them a consistent amount every month. Well, Andy's team do.
Thank you. Councillor Brake.
That's better. Thank you very much, Chairman. And I join so many of my colleagues this evening who have heaped praise upon the waste collection and recycling services that Medway offers. Just a couple of points, if I may, please. First of all, that in Lordswood and Waldersley, we're particularly lucky in as much as we're blessed with a whole load of, I say load, that's probably the wrong description, really, a whole lot of local residents who feel so strongly about cleanliness of our area that they formed a volunteer litter picking group that really does a phenomenal job, and they're out there picking litter, and in fact as ward councillors we help support them together with the team in litter pickers, making sure they've got sufficient black bags, anything and everything that is needed in order to keep our area closed. There was a slight misunderstanding when the new administration came into play, in as much as that there was concern over the volunteers and the work that they were doing. But I'm pleased to say that all has been resolved to the point that our volunteers are now able to leave their black sacks at any street litter bin area for collection, and that really has proved to be a winner with the local community. A group of people who are very keen to help support and help keep our area clean. So thank you for that. Recycling, our wall collection in our neck of the woods, in fact, is a Monday, and it's strange that Sunday appears to be the day that I know there are several expressions to describe these people, but if I would describe them as private entrepreneurs that take advantage of the Sunday, and when it's reasonably quiet, of actually going around with suitable vehicles to collect any waste metal and old fridges and anything else that may be available. And it does concern me a little bit. It's good that somebody is going out there picking these things up, but it does concern me that, of course, what these people are doing, in fact, are involved in the theft of recycled or recycling goods that have been put out by local residents by pre-booking a collection. And it's actually happened to me where I've had something for collection, done my booking and everything else, only to find that I'm given a letter by the council to say we called to collect your recycled item, but unfortunately there was nothing there to collect. And I've been greeted with a photograph of an empty space. Now, only because it's been picked up, but it worries me that these people are doing this, and this is theft, because that is revenue that Medway Council is entitled to, because we are running a recycling system. But I'm not quite sure how things like this can really be addressed. And the third point I'd just like to make, if I may, and that is to just to set the record straight with regard to the booking systems at our recycling. This actually came about and was introduced by the Conservative administration as a result of KCC deciding that they would make a charge on local residents for the use of recycling facilities. And what that meant, in fact, is that we were overloaded, particularly the recycling within the Lordswood area, where people from all over North Kent would find this to be and it also happened at Cuxton, where people from outside of Medway would be trundling down the M2, or they'd be cutting across country to Lordswood to use the free facilities and join the queues like everybody else would. As a result of that, KCC and Medway had a conversation about, well, KCC wanted Medway to introduce a charge, keep up with Kent and make a charge, to which we replied, no, that was an option that was not even to be considered, because we prided ourselves in being able to provide this service to our community, and we were not intending to make any charge. And as a result of that, KCC did in fact agree to make a contribution to the costs. But in order to actually monitor the whole programme, people were asked to make a regular booking if they wanted to use the service, and they had to take along with them a utility or service bill that actually showed where they lived, and vehicle registration numbers were taken. So just so that people know, that's how the booking system started. And there's no doubt about it, it's proved to be a very successful way of dealing with recycling. You're in and out so quickly. It's a credit to the whole service. But I'll finish off with what I started with, to say what a wonderful service, and I applaud what is being done out there. We are, in fact, the top of the league. We really are, and that's the way we ought to keep it. Be top of the league and be the envy of the whole of the country. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Brake. And that initial point actually reminds me that the Great British Spring Clean is due next month, and I'm sure many members will be working alongside communities across the Medway towns to undertake local spring cleans and to help keep our environment well. Councillor Peake.
Thank you, Chair. Good timing, because it means I can endorse what Councillor Brake has just said, and also my colleagues, about the service provided and how clear this report is. It's funny, isn't it, how we think sometimes, because I admit sometimes when I've got to get stuff down to a refuse cycle, I moan my head off, oh, I don't know how long I'm going to take to get it together, and I've got to commit myself. But as reminded back to the days when you used to just turn up and the queues you used to have, so as a trade-off between the two, it's definitely a good system and one worth keeping. I've got a question, but before I get there, I also want to reflect on what Councillor Campbell just said. I also have been that person in his pyjamas running after the dump truck, and the crew members have actually walked back to get what I want to get rid of. That's impressed me. I'm also very impressed with the driver down our road, the skill set that they show, and the attitude of the crew. And one thing I've also recognise is that, I mean, you do get idiots that start blasting their horns, but if you're patient, they do see you there, and they will pull over, and they will, if there's like a closely, I've actually had where there's a very closely parked car, and my car's quite large, and they've actually helped guide me through the space, and that's what I call service. There's only been one occasion only when I've been behind a truck, and unfortunately, the crew members on both sides of the road were taking no care at all when I threw the refuge into the back of the truck, and there was a mess everywhere. That's one occasion only, and I've been living down here now for about 13 years, so I think that's pretty impressive. I didn't think to take the number plate. I was just thinking about how I was going to get round them. My question is to do with the Christmas service and when there was a pause of service in January. Do you have collected data of any complaints or number of complaints about a perceived lack of service? Now, the reason why I ask this, because at 5 minutes to 5 on Christmas Monday, I had a constituent who called me up and went straight into it. Why haven't you done anything about this? Who are you, about what, whatever it was. My rubbish hasn't been collected. It's normally collected on Monday. I've got to give praise again. The speed and response of the relevant officers was really, really appreciated by me. They got back onto it straight away. He also conceded the point that he had actually been given notification of the different timetable. I personally think it's very, very well advertised, but there are always these people that don't think, these people that don't look, and I'm just wondering if you do have any data at all of other people that have made a complaint. Most probably their fault, but it'd be interesting to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you're talking about January last year, in the contract year that we're talking about, January 2024, I think we had 0 complaints regarding the Christmas service. And then in this Christmas, just past, it's always a bit confusing with the two, but Amy is telling me I don't think we had any. We haven't had any. So in either this Christmas or last Christmas, no stage 1 complaints. That we would log in our system to say we've had a stage 1 complaint. I think actually it was myself. I think you emailed through to Democratic Services, didn't you? And I think they came back to me. I remember, and I think that the gentleman did then email back at the end with quite a nice message. So yeah, I think that was the only council inquiry we had this year from recollection as well.
Sorry, did you get a nice message back?
I think he sent quite a pleasant message at the end. Well, it was a message at the end that said I got the information, so it wasn't unpleasant.
Okay, because I was going to say it would have been nice if he had said thank you to officers who presumably were working after hours and went out of their way to give a quick response. I'm glad to hear that he did.
It didn't stick in my mind as something. Maybe I'm misremembering with Christmas glow, but it didn't stand out to me as a message that was unpleasant. Generally, if people are unhappy, they're very clear in their displeasure.
Anyway. Thank you, but your answer is good to hear, so thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. Well, there's a whole team, as you said, there's 300 people, collection crews, cleansing crews, and the HWRC and transfer station. I know we always talk about the collection crews who we all see and have a good relationship, but there's lots of people in the whole chain. Thank you.
If I can just add to that, I mean, I think the Christmas, whichever year you take, the problem with communication is sometimes people don't see it, hear it, read it, understand it, and actually, a bit like Councillor Brake's comments earlier about stuff going out and being taken, the longer people put stuff out on the curbside, the more likelihood is it's going to get taken away. Now, the communication in terms of what times to put stuff out after 7 o'clock in the evening and collect it in the morning, you know, is quite important to control some bits and pieces. But most of all, I wanted to say thank you for everybody that's commented on the staff, the drivers and their assistants. It is with a sense of pride I can take that back and communicate back to the staff, and it is appreciated. They will certainly receive that with a smile on their face. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Williams.
Thanks, Chair. And also thank you for a good positive report. And I'd like to thank you and your team for all the hard work done over the last year. I'd just like to make a comment on the booking service, and we spoke about safety earlier on. My particular centre is at Couchman, and we had terrible problems at Couchman with because you had a short run into the tip, and it used to be queuing back up Sundridge Hill, and it was very dangerous. Since we had the booking system, it's been great. It's solved the problem, so it has worked. And I'd like to thank the team for that, because he was taking your life in your own hands, delivering stuff to Couchman Tip at one time. Just a comment, thank you.
Thank you. I haven't got any other members to speak, but I've just got one question. Brilliant report, as everyone says, very thorough. I'm going to specifically reference table 3 on page 19, and I'm very glad to note that the dead animal removals is returning to the long-term trend, so that's very pleasing. However, the line just below is the needles and syringe removal. One of the issues that I get picked up in my ward quite often is NOx canisters. And, you know, them left on the streets, and people are obviously naturally concerned about that. Is the reduction in needles and syringe removals, is that part of that trend? Is it different? substance misuse and different trends in that, or is it a change in focus in terms of your contract and the activities, or is it a change in feedback that we were getting from the general public on those matters?
I think, if I'm honest, it's not necessarily a change in focus, but it's custom and practice, and the crews get used to just collecting, putting in boxes. I don't think it's necessarily a reflection of anything other than it's a very difficult metric to actually manage and control. Certainly, on all of our cleansing, syringes are still a very high risk, and we come across them on a regular basis. I don't think we're necessarily reporting the true reflection of syringes.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, well, thank you on that matter. I would like to pass to the Vice Chair for a proposal, please.
Thank you. The committee is asked to note the content of the report, including annual service reports and other briefings set out in appendices 1 to 5 of the report.
Is that seconded? Thank you. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you very much for that, and thank you for all those who've attended tonight on this item. The next item is the attendance of the portfolio holder for Heritage, Culture and Leisure. So I'd like to invite Councillor Gurung to come to the committee table there. Firstly, I'd like to thank you for that very comprehensive report that you've given. So if you want to just a few brief remarks would be great, but then obviously we can then go to any member. I'll just give you a few seconds just to make yourself comfortable.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. Yes, I have submitted a comprehensive report as the portfolio holder for Heritage, Culture and Leisure before yourselves. And I would like to first of all start by thanking the previous portfolio holder, Councillor Harinder Mahil, for setting in motion some of the wonderful work that I have in my role that I took over from him since July last year, have tried to continue in terms of some of the difficult but necessary choices that I've had to make because of the difficult financial situation that the Council is in, but still in terms of the delivery of services as well as Medway remaining as an exciting culture and arts destination, as well as in terms of sports and leisure, what we have been providing through the hard work, leadership from the heads of culture, library, heritage, as well as heads of sports and leisure, and our efficient and very good partnership and network with the local, regional and national partners, and also obviously the hard work of all our staff members and managers. I just wanted to highlight that we remain very, very ambitious for Medway, and because of all the hard work that has gone and how we work together, we continue to deliver outstanding services, as you can see from the report as well, throughout my portfolio. And I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Councillor. Any member? Councillor Effred.
Thank you, and thank you very much for your report. I'm pleased to hear in your presentation there, you're looking at something very ambitious for Medway. So I'd like to know, if possible, what your plans are for Medway to celebrate VE Day in May next year. And will you also be inviting residents to apply for street closures for street parties?
I am more than happy to answer that question, but we do have very, very exciting plans to celebrate VE Day. And because Medway is a military, previous military, because of our heritage links with the military as well as the Navy, we do want to commemorate it in our own unique way as well. We do have exciting plan which does involve the cathedral as well as the Royal Engineers, as well as the historic dock at Chatham, our veterans, and yes, as per the government's aspirations as well to celebrate VE Day, we are looking at street parties, etc. as well. But before we make a formal announcement, we are waiting for the funding to be declared by the government departments, and I'm sure the leader of the council will be able to tell us more about that tomorrow as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next I have Councillor Doe.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for your report, Councillor Gunn. I'd just like to ask 1 or 2 questions, but before I do, I would like to draw attention to the work that is being done, which I think is absolutely excellent, on the Corn Exchange, because I started this off, as you know, we had a refurb and so on, but actually when you look at under 6.2, which is on page 74, you'll see there that there's tremendous amount of 32% increase has been shown across the whole lot, and I think that says an awful lot for Paul Cowell and his team, you know, for having got that done. So I'd like to pass on my congratulations, if I may. I think the other thing which concerns me is that we used to have a capital programme for gradually upgrading our libraries to community hub status. And I'd rather, I know we're all under, you know, some financial stresses, to put it mildly, but I just wonder whether that has now been abandoned or whether, in fact, it will continue. There were, for example, plans for Hook Meadow, which took a fair time to develop, and there's an awful lot of powder and shot was sort of expended in time terms. And also, of course, in the longer term, we were looking at Luton to see if we could provide a more effective community hub there for one of the most deprived areas in the borough. So I wonder if you'd like to comment on that, because I do hope that capital programme, albeit more slow than it probably was before because of the financial constraints, whether that is still been planning and whether that's still going to continue. The other thing which I wondered was, we haven't any information, well, we've got some, but it's not very uniform, on the footfall in our community hubs and libraries as to whether that's, you know, increasing on each site and so on. And I would find it very helpful if that information could be provided by officers. I imagine it must be in the machine, so I find it very helpful to have that. And one of those things really is, I think, that there's been a worrying downturn, I think, in footfall for Upnor Castle. Now, I think that's attributed to a certain extent from the need to cut back on staff. But I wonder whether that, you know, when we're doing work there, as I know, to the barrack block, which is one of the most, well, it's the second oldest barrack block, second oldest barrack block in the country, and it's a very, very interesting site. But it's one that nobody ever sees because, you know, it's not in a very good place. But actually, it wouldn't cost that much to do, I suspect. And I long wanted to get people like English Heritage and maybe, but more importantly, the lottery, interested in doing the barracks up properly, and perhaps even looking towards having a volunteer garrison or something like that, but so that we actually do try and build up those numbers, because I know that Upnor Castle is to a certain extent off the beaten track. In other words, you've got to go there if you know, where you don't pass it, you know. But I think if we can try to build up Upnor rather more, I think that'd be very helpful. Lastly, can I just ask, by way of confirmation, I'm getting a lot of public sort of feedback, grumbling on about, oh, is Christmas Dickens going to continue, etc., etc. And I have assured them, as far as I'm aware, that it is going to continue. But I think there is a feeling that, you know, there are other festivals also there that may not, you know, may drop out the programme. And I just wondered whether the portfolio holder could comment on that and perhaps give some reassurance about that, because, you know, I'm sure that she was very, I know we couldn't do anything about this year, obviously, it was quite right to cancel it and we couldn't help it. But I'd be very upset, if you like, if we start gradually knocking off our festivals because of the financial pressures. So I think it's something which I wonder if you could comment on next year's programme that you're projecting, and whether we are going to keep all the festivals, whether we're intending to do away with some of them or what. That I'd like to have the answer to. Thank you.
Thank you. That was 5 questions in total, so I'm going to go through them one by one. With regards to the first feedback, actually, with regards to the Rochester Corn Exchange, thank you for the feedback. And yes, I totally agree that this is exciting. We do feel that there is scope for us to turn things around, and as you can see that with vision and with a proper plan, it seems doable. We are still reviewing as time goes by, and we do hope that this will be another venue that will be commercially self-sustainable in the long term. But so far, the indications are proving to be quite positive. With regards to the upgrading of the community hub and the libraries, yes, it's not the case that we are not doing that. At the moment, I have actually visited all the libraries and community hubs in Medway, and having seen the locations as well as the communities that they serve and the footfall. Actually, in terms of footfall, it is nearing pre-COVID levels in many of the community hubs and libraries. I am more than happy to ask the officer to circulate the appendix of what the footfalls look like. Having said that, you are quite right with regards to Luton. It is one of our most deprived areas here in Medway, and we are exploring why the footfall actually in Luton seems to be lesser than other areas. Having said that, with regards to whether or not we are going ahead with the library and communities hub review, we had set aside a budget for that, but I think because of where we are with Medway's journey and the near sort of different track we could have nearly taken with the devolution process very not so long ago, we did feel like, is it more sensible to pause it for now? And also with regards to the local plan as well, we want to know that if we spend this money that we've set aside for the communities and libraries review, does that mean that we will have to do the exercise again when the local plan has been is completed? So we don't want to do it twice. So we are carefully monitoring the journey of the local plan. And at the moment, I am taking wise counsel from everybody and also reviewing the process. It's not that we haven't got the money and we haven't used it. So that is still something that I might consider. On the positive, as you have seen from the report as well, we do take bi-monthly feedback from service users that use our libraries, and the satisfaction rate, as you can see, is 99% to 100%. Our libraries and community hubs do not only serve the purpose of library, it is community space as well. And, councillors hold surgeries, our child-friendly Medway use it, our different services also use it to provide advice and also reach out to our communities. So it serves so many different purposes. And at the moment, from the footfall and the usage, as well as you might also know that some libraries are open for lesser periods, but I think in terms of footfall, it does justify keeping it at that rate as well. So a very positive update that I wish to share with everybody is at the moment, although there are 2 libraries which are very close to each other, I do not have any intention of closing any libraries for the moment, because the footfalls and the usage does justify it, keeping it open for now. With regards to the Upnor Castle, it is one of the most beautiful castles across South East, no doubt about that. And you are right about the footfall, and also when we look at who is actually visiting, 80% of them are actually English heritage members. So in terms of Medway managing it and generating income, sadly that, we have tried various measures, but it is not generating the income. Having said that, one of my consideration is also for our staff members who, so I have had conversations, and I've been reassured that our staff members who are part of Upnor Castle at the moment, should it be a journey where English heritage will later on be taken responsibility. We're not there yet. I just want to make it very clear we're just starting the conversations. But in terms of staff, I would want to reassure them that I've been reassured by HR that they will be soaked up within our current sort of system of staffing within our culture and heritage teams. With regards to why the footfall is impacted, you are absolutely spot on. It is not just off the beaten track, but the main reason seems to be parking. It just cannot accommodate a large group of people because there is no parking. And the limited parking there is, the residents also vie for the same parking space. So I think that has proved to be the major barrier. Your final question was with regards to Christmas Dickens. I can assure you that as far as possible, as the portfolio holder, if it is still doable within our means, at this moment in time, we have no plan to cut that back. You might have seen that we did have what you call the sprinkle of Dickens, and I think there has been quite positive feedback as to, rather than having all the Dickens Festival, Dickens Christmas in one weekend, spread it across the 3 weekends. So we have taken that on board, and we are talking to our partners to see if that is something that we wish to do across the 3 weekends rather than just one weekend. We do have a review planning meeting coming up, so we will be discussing that further. And the other thing that you might have heard during the full council meeting last time, the mayor did say that I had planned for our Christmas Dickens to be an even more unique and celebration of Medway's heritage, particularly with regards to Charles Dickens and our link. And so many civic guests from all across South East were also wanting to be part of it at no cost to the council. Sadly, due to Storm Dara, that has been paused. So whoever's the next mayor, this coming Christmas might be able to extend that warm welcome to other dignitaries from across the Southeast. So I hope I've answered all your questions.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Councillor Cook, please.
Thank you very much. And yeah, just to say from me, thank you so much for this report. I think, again, this is something that impacts absolutely everybody, and so much of what my children have enjoyed growing up in Medway is in this report, and what's really added to our lives. So really thank you. Specifically for Cossington, we're very regular users of Cossington. It's fantastic, and the lifeguards are superb. The staff there are wonderful. So particularly looking at 23.8 and talking about SEND and inclusion, it's such an inclusive place, and that really is fantastic. On that point, I wanted to say also the same for our libraries. The range of books on inclusive parenting for young people around inclusion are superb. The training that library staff have had in working with inclusion, particularly around SEND, is fantastic. So thank you very much. I wanted to ask 2 questions, one particularly about libraries, Section 9.4 is talking about the access to the internet in our libraries and the streaming that's used. Really brilliant, but I'd just like to know a little bit more about safeguarding, please. How is safeguarding maintained? How are we ensuring that these systems are used appropriately and what monitoring is in place for that, please? And secondly, the section 19.3 talking about football and investment. Obviously, as a ward councillor, there were a number of sites there that I was particularly interested in from that perspective, but aware that we've spoken about these sites, Barnfield, Hook Meadow, a lot in terms of community safety. And I wanted to ask about support not only for improving the facilities, but the site hardening, the support of maintaining the protection of that area, which might be attached to your portfolio, but working with others as well, I know, obviously with Councillor Patton's portfolio particularly, but just to understand that that money is going to be invested in a way that the community can enjoy that long term. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think the feedback that you gave for our Cossington staff members and also the services, I hear it very regularly. In fact, when I've visited the sports centres and spoken to community members who are using the facilities, they have in person also given me absolutely wonderful feedback about our staff members. So credit where it's due, hats off to all our hardworking and dedicated staff members who day in, day out make sure that residents of Medway not just get best value for their money, but also a wonderful experience when they visit our sports centre. After all, we are here to serve them. The other thing about SEND, the facilities that we are expanding across our sports centres and including our events as well now, we're very proud of that. And I'm very passionate about that as well. So under our administration and when I took over the portfolio, I did speak to both the heads, Bob and Paul, about, how do we make sure that our events and sports centres are as inclusive as possible, and our libraries as well. You might have seen in terms of libraries, we have such a wide range of support for the hard of hearing, for older people, for people who have got, emotional, mental well-being support. We promote those support groups, etc. So there's so much happening in our libraries, and I'm very, very proud of all of that. And I would just like to plug something very exciting. Our Gillingham Library is going to be featured on BBC Radio Kent on Friday, 9 o'clock. Please listen, because we have a very famous popular actress who is a big fan of Gillingham Library, and she's a resident of Medway, and she will be, and our libraries head manager, Will Train, will be talking about our library and our services. Very, very, very proud and happy about that. And in fact, I just wanted to also accredit our libraries and archives team as to why, when I was looking at trends across Southeast, not just Southeast, actually nationally, some libraries are actually not receiving the same sort of footfall that we have. And in terms of the Summer Reading Challenge, if you have seen the report, we are actually bucking the trend. Our children are literally rising up to the challenge, and who knows, there might be another Dickens or two, in future, but our library staff are doing an amazing job as well, so I really, really want to praise them. With regards to the streaming services and the internet safety, I work in safeguarding as well, and I'm very, very passionate that we make sure all our digital devices adhere to the internet, the safety precautions, and I have been assured by the library's managers that all the features with regards to the controls that need to be in place so that people are not accessing inappropriate stuff or sharing from our computers, that is in place. With regards to the play area, I think with regards to the antisocial behavior, that is not under my remit. I do hope that that is something, one person creating a nuisance can have an impact on the whole community, and I hope those people will reconsider their actions. But on the other hand, with regards to the play areas across Medway, and I say this across Medway because every time Paul or Bob comes to me and say, like, there is this plan, I do say to them, like, can we make sure that, we've considered all areas across Medway, not just one area? And as far as possible, they will always have that conversation before they even come to me. So I do trust them with that. And yes, we are applying for funding for, to upgrade play areas, etc. But the green spaces and play areas come more under Simon's portfolio as well.
Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you so much. All really appreciate it. Just very briefly to say, it would be really interesting to see or just be pointed to the policies that are used around the internet safety in the library, if that's possible, please.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're there, but it would be great just to have a link to them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, I have Councillor Williams.
Thanks, Chair, and thank you for the report. I just want to make a comment, really, on the Central Theatre at Chatham there. I've attended a couple of shows this year already, and actually booked a couple more, but including the London Symphony Rock Orchestra, which is an outstanding show. I must say that the staff were brilliant. Everything went smoothly, and the staff were very friendly, helpful and efficient. A great service. I wonder if you could pass it on to the staff there, please, because I think it's a very well-used facility now. Every time I've been, it's been absolutely packed, and the show's been great. But if you could pass it on to the team, that would be great, if you could, please. Just one question, really. You spoke about the Christmas Dickens. I just wonder, in the near future, is there any chance of reviving the Summer Dickens Festival? It used to draw thousands of visitors and brought much-needed boost to Rochester's economy and promoting Medway. I was wondering, is there any chance, or has been spoke about in the future, of reviving it at all? Thank you.
I'll start with the Central Theatre first. You're absolutely spot on. Debs and her team are doing such a phenomenal job that, can you imagine our Central Theatre featuring on the national, the theatre pages, making our mark out there. And if you look at, the highly acclaimed acts that are actually coming to Medway to perform, and you are absolutely right as well, we are outperforming in terms of the ticket sales, and with regards to the shows as well, Debs and her team are very, very careful as to, they're very aware of what will sell and what they want to bring as an extra bit of flavor for Medway and our adjoining sort of neighboring areas as well. And I must say, when I was also at the Jack and the Beanstalk pantomime, again, I would want to say that we also held an all-inclusive sort of, silent, relaxed session for our children with special needs as well. Again, I'm very, very proud of that. But we had so many visitors from outside of Medway who come to our central theatres because we are quite good at picking what acts will sell well, and it does bring boost our local economy as well when people come here. And so yeah, full credit to Debs and her team as well, and I do thank them endlessly for all the hard work, because it is only a small team, and if you look at their office, it's only a small office, but from that they are doing such a phenomenal job. Yeah, thank you. I will pass on your thanks via Paul, and I will do that as well. With regards to Christmas Dickens, yes, again, it brings in at least £5 million to local economy. With regards to Summer Dickens, you are already aware of the reasons why it, could not go ahead. We are reminded by SIFA time and again, you're not statutory services, but despite that, you can see the range of events and community-based events that we are still delivering. And not all of it is from the council's own money. We are constantly applying for funds, left, right, center, whichever, so that our community can enjoy these events. And we will continue to do so under Paul and his team. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks very much.
We do have the Sweeps Festival, though.
Oh, yeah, I've been to that.
And that brings in another.
I used to dance in that as well many years ago, so people didn't know that, so keep it to yourself, please.
I won't tell anyone, don't worry, it's not the public record.
I won't bash the stick. I'll be on camera, sorry. Yeah, just going back to the Central Theatre, they're very popular shows. I've got one booked for October, and when I booked it about 3 weeks ago, there wasn't many seats left. So they do seem to book the right acts, so yeah, just pass it on, thank you.
Thank you, will do.
Thank you. Councillor Lawrence.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Gurran, thank you for your report. It was a good read. It's actually, when you see it in one report like that, you realise just how much is going on across Medway. I was interested in the Corn Exchange, and I don't know the history about the renovation of the Corn Exchange, but the Conservative group have booked it twice. We're very keen on the Corn Exchange. But it seems a very inflexible space. Maybe I've got it wrong, but I just wonder, I noticed it was 182 events over 365 days, 50% utilisation rate. And if the space was more flexible, do you think you would get more bookings? And just in terms of its profit and loss, if you like, how much is it costing the council at the moment to operate the Corn Exchange?
So you are right, I think, like you have said. Yes, it is a very flexible venue. And it was used today as well for our young people here in Medway, and we use it for council, for council's events, and people can book it for all sorts of celebratory events as well. And we have musicals, so many happening at events happening at Corn Exchange. With regards to how much it costs us, I think for the specifics, I might have to go to refer to Paul.
There we go. Actually, it's a really brilliant position this year. So for the first year that I've been here, and I think for a long time, we've overachieved our income targets, and from next year there'll be no council subsidy for the Corn Exchange. So it's washing its own face. There is obviously support around that, but it's essentially washing its own face, which is great.
I was quite surprised that there's only 12 weddings there, because I would have thought that would be a brilliant wedding venue. So that's good. Thank you for that. I've got a few more questions. I hope you don't mind if I take them one at a time.
Yeah, go on.
Just as an addition to the library question, it'd be good to know the demographics of who's using the library, not only the footfall, but which groups are really making use of the library. I just wondered whether you... this is my perception, it's probably wrong, but is our culture offering just too centred around Chatham and Rochester? And I know this has come up before, and I'm wondering about the more outlying areas. How do we get more events into Rainham, for example, into Strood and into other areas?
Thank you. With regards to the demographics in terms of the use of library, that's a very good question, and I have asked our library staff as well to start capturing that, because I would be interested as well in terms of, especially where we are targeting, let's say for Luton, it's a very highly deprived area, and there's a lot of people coming and going, but in terms of who's coming and whether we need to do more, so that is something that I have also requested that we capture going forward. With regards to events, whether or not they're centered around Chatham only or Rochester only, you might say, it might seem like that. But what I would like to say is, if you look at the events that the Culture and Events team deliver, many of them are also done in partnership with consortiums that come to the council and say, we want to do this. Let's say Medway Pride is one of the biggest and, highly celebrated one in the southeast, but we don't take leadership in that. It's our LGBTQI plus and Rainbow over Medway and Medway Pride group that take leadership and come to us with an idea, and we support them. Likewise, with Chatham Carnival and Chinese New Year Festival, the council does not necessarily take a lead. We support because the Chatham Town Centre Forum, Nucleus Arts, and the Chinese community, they apply for funding, and one of them have been funded by the SPF as well. But if, let's say for Raynham, for Strood, other areas, if the Town Centre Forum and local businesses or key partners or people with vision wish to commemorate something, let's say for Strood, Isaac Newell, and for Gillingham, Will Adams and all of that. If there are key partners that come together and come to the council and say, look, this is our idea, how about we bring this back to our towns or initiate this? Our events team are more than happy to sit down and have discussions. So I would like to welcome any consortiums, partners out there who wish to come to us with ideas about initiating events across other parts of Medway. And I would like to highlight last year, let's say in the peninsula, Councillor Pearce is quite involved with the Thomas Aveling Society. He is actually the lead, and he did come to the council for some support. Although he had secured majority of the funding elsewhere, we tried to see what we can do, and we did dip into our Heritage Place Fund to support that. So we are trying to see, how we can support events across Medway.
Thank you. That was a good answer. I think some of my residents in Hempstead and Wigmore will think it's very centred. Now, sometimes you need a big central place to hold an event like Chinese New Year, but you take the Hempstead Village Committee and their fair, that's all entirely run by them. They wouldn't even dream of applying for money. I mean, it's difficult enough getting the road closed for the afternoon, let alone applying for money. But I take your point about that.
Yes.
I suppose that's a message we need to push out as well. Just a few more questions. A lot in this report is about grant funding, people applying. Do you think we're a little bit too dependent on grant funding for our cultural offering? Why is it that Medway Pride needs and I'm not picking on Medway Pride, it's just you brought it up. Why does it need a grant to operate? Why can't it not be more self-sufficient? And I think the danger is our limited amount of money gets whittled away every single year. It means we can't develop new cultural offerings, something has to give. And I suppose what I'm saying to you is, would it not be better if our community, our cultural groups were given some seed money to get them going, but they were aimed at being self-sufficient within a good period of time, and then we can continue to develop our offering?
Thank you. I wish there was that ring-fenced pot of money that we could have, so that we could just carry on our events without having to worry about, how do we secure the next events costs, etc. Sadly, at the moment, due to the financial situation that we're in, let's say, for instance, for the Sweeps Festival, we had a pot of money, and the money that was put towards the event, we do not make money out of it. We actually, there's an overspend of 22K for sweeps, but because our other areas of my portfolio is performing so well under the leadership of, let's say, for Paul, which is why we've been able to soak up that overspend through the theatre's income. But at the moment, there is no money that's set aside for us to
Yeah, I think more generally, I'm wondering whether we need to encourage our groups, cultural groups, to aiming to be self-sufficient. It's a comment really, and it's a bit about having a vision, isn't it? In terms of you get groups set up, they operate, you support them for a few years, and they become more self-sufficient. It's almost like getting hooked on grant money because the council's going to write a cheque every year, where in actual fact they could be doing more to be more self-sufficient. It's more of a general comment.
Yeah, I'd just like to respond to that one. I think part of my report does cover that our events culture team also sit down with key partners that want to start an initiative, events-wise or, celebrations, things like that. Our heritage culture team will sit down with them and support them with, these are the areas that you can secure funding from, and if there needs to be some more guidance needed, our events team are more than happy to do that, and we've done that for over 100 different organizations as well. So with regards to taking them towards a journey to self-sufficiency, obviously that should be the vision of that organization as well, isn't it?
Thank you, Councillor Green. That's really great. Just a few more questions, actually. I think our sports offering remains remarkable, and I think that's absolutely great. I've been sort of loosely involved in the Medway Mini Youth Games through work I do in schools, and they are amazing events. It's a shame that only 55 schools take part, and I wonder what more we could do to encourage schools to get involved. I noticed that one of the schools I'm involved in doesn't, and I will be writing to the head teacher tomorrow morning to say, why are you not doing mini youth games? Because it's a school in a really deprived area, and I think it would be brilliant for the children. I had a bit of a legacy question, actually, about 2012 was such a big event for Medway with the London Olympics, and we were hosting some of the camps here. Have we really is the legacy of that, do we see that today? Because a lot of money was put into that, and there was a lot of high hope that there would be a legacy. And I just wonder if there's any sign of that at all. Thank you.
I think the legacy question should perhaps be taken up by...
Bob's been around long enough, hasn't he?
With regards to mini youth games, though, once again, it goes to show that we are invested in promoting sports activities amongst our young people. Children, after all, we want to be child-friendly Medway, right? And it's great that 55 local schools took part in 10 sporting activities across 21 days. And also full credit to our 11 clubs that took part and supported the mini youth games. I also want to highlight the disability youth games, because sometimes, like I said, for us, it's about being inclusive Medway. And again, with the disability youth games, we had 6 schools participating across 4 sports and supported by 3 partners. Once again, I would like to thank all our partners and clubs that support us with these. Again, there isn't like a ring-fenced money set aside, and we, myself and Bob, have had discussions about how we maintain this for the coming years. At the moment, we are quite determined as far as possible to continue to do this, and if necessary, we might have to go to see if there can be more funding available, but I'm determined that we keep this for now. Bob, did you want to answer the legacy question?
Can I just say, I think Councillor Lawrence should take up baseball with that kind of curveball. I think it depends how you measure that legacy. So in tangible terms, we wouldn't have Medway Park if it wasn't for 2012. And that, in turn, I don't think would have encouraged both previous administration and this administration to invest so heavily in Coslington Park, because they could see the benefits of that. I think if you look at it from income through our sports centres as an example, so Who Sports Centre, since 2019, its income has increased 96%. So I think we can see it in terms of the numbers of people who are using our facilities and prepared to pay for them. I think in terms of the mini youth games, as a great example of that, 55 schools, yeah, I would love every school to take part, and that's what we aim for every year. And some, we've only listed their schools that take part in more than one. We do have some schools that take part in some. But I think in the previous to 2012, it was something around 25 schools. So, and you helped us with that through those years, so I'm eternally grateful for that. So I think it is just going to come down to those metrics. So yes, there are, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination suggesting, yeah, we cracked that one, we've solved it. But there are a number of key indicators that we can say, yeah, absolutely, we have gained from that. And there will continue to be work to do. But the very fact that we can still talk about that legacy and we've got a lot to show for it, and we continue to develop that, I think is tantamount to the kind of success it's had.
Yeah, one final question, Chair. No, I'm there, I'm sorry. It just proves I've read the report, doesn't it? And I've actually done my job. I think for the last administration, Cossington Park showed a lot of vision. And in the teeth of some opposition, it might be said. And Cossington Park is now a real jewel in our crown. And I think the underspend on Cossington Park meant that we could spend some more money on Stroud Sports Centre. So even better. Councillor Goran, what's your big vision? What is it that you're bringing to this? Because everything here seems to be a continuation of the previous administration. So what's the big vision? What's the big thing that you're going to be delivering for the people of Medway in this area? Thank you, Chair.
Yes, with regards to sports and leisure, yes, it is partly continuation of our vision to make sure that we become commercially self-sustainable, and it is due to the commitment and the brainstorming, the application of new ideas, being all out with regards to using our comms effectively, being visible with regards to our offers. All of that is making a difference in terms of in leading us towards our journey towards self-sufficiency. The other part with regards to what else, I think you have seen in my report as well, we have yet to capture the economic impact assessment for the International Dance Festival, let's say, that brings in 10,000 dancers to Medway each year. And we want to make sure that we work together with, let's say, the local MP as well as the local councillors, local businesses, to see what we can do to really extend a warmer welcome or make sure that everybody that comes to Medway feels actually they can spend a little bit more time learning about our heritage, learning about what else we've got to offer rather than just coming for a few days. And but having said that, it's great that our centre manager, Medway Park centre manager Paul Johnston and his team, they have worked really closely with the organisers over a period of time, and they've built up such a warm and trusting relationship that they want to come back every year. And this year, in fact, they're returning for 4 years. And likewise, I think across all different sports centres, my vision is to make sure that for our young people who have got a lot of promise, we want to extend our sort of support in terms of, discounts, making sure that they are able to utilize our facilities without the barriers. And I think we already have that system in place, but I would want to see evidence of how that is actually supporting. And as you have seen as well, we had a brilliant sports awards where we had Olympians and you name it, we had it, and we're ever so proud of our super achievers, Medway heroes, Olympians and national players who are part of Medway and our sports heroes. So yeah, I think they are very keen to support with our vision to extend their expertise or their guidance, etc. So utilizing that, tapping into their offer, and also utilizing our sports centres, dedicated staff members, and within our means to offer some support to real talented athletes and aspiring sports people to meet their full potential by us playing a part as well.
Thank you. We've got Councillor Peake, Jackson and Campbell on this item, and then after that we'll take a break. But as soon as we're discussing sports, actually, I think this is an important topic. And you know, the importance of civic pride, the importance of connecting particularly our deprived communities as well, that have seen a lot of economic and social challenges over the last generation. But one key area of civic pride here in Medway is the mighty Gills. I just want to put that on record. But Gillingham FC are kind of our most nationally significant sporting brand and icon, and I think people know where, you know, Medway is from. Obviously, there's been a change in ownership over the last 3 or 4 years, but one of the things actually that Gillingham FC has lacked, really shockingly compared to other Football League clubs, is the only Football League club that doesn't have an active community foundation programme. And there has been talk from, I understand, from the managing director and from the ownership about wanting to really kind of get engaged, because that can be a real key, you know, piece of glue in terms of promoting our vision, getting training in, and you know, collecting our communities. I just wanted to know how Medway are engaging with the football club on that and trying to make sure that we actually see the benefits of you know, there are really good community programs in the Football League, and actually making sure that we get one of them for here.
Yeah, I'm happy to report that we have actually quite good relationships with our 2 major football clubs, Gillingham Football Club as well as Chatham Football Club. With regards to Gillingham Football Club, there have been meetings with the Gills with regards to reform their trust status and discussions with regards to access to Watling Park Football Centre for the Gills soccer camps during school holidays, with regards to emergency training purposes, hosting school competitions for secondary school girls and primary schools as well. And our vision is to help the school children to move on to regional events, as well as you know, supporting them in that journey. And also there have been there has been an EFL funding application as well to deliver a new sporting memories club at Gillingham Football Club, an active aging physical activity program across multiple Medway homes for independent living. So Gills are still waiting for a response, and we've also discussed the Beechings Cross and what we might like to do in partnership with them there. So it is, we're on a journey, and we also intend to invite them to the mini youth games football. That is my plan. Apart from that, I have built a relationship with sort of like a working relationship with Gillingham Football Club head, not just the owners, but Joe Comper, and he has been supportive with some of our other events as well. And when I had conversations with him with regards to how the council and the football club can work together to promote community events, he has shown very keen interest, so we will be taking that discussion further.
It would be really good, because I mean, for instance, other football teams, dare I say it, from South East London, potentially, you know, do feel a lot of that vacuum. And as promoted Medway, it would be good to have a really symbiotic relationship with Gillingham, maybe Chatham, maybe even Rochester United as well. So there's all sorts of football clubs across the pyramid. So thank you for that. I'm going to go to Councillor Peake, please.
Yeah, no, well said, Chair. Got to say thank you, Councillor Gurong, for being here, considering the relatively short notice that you had to come here. And it's really galvanising to hear your answers and your enthusiasm. I don't actually personally think it can be overemphasised. how important the heritage portfolio is, because I think there is, I strongly believe there's a direct link between promoting, whether it's football, theatre or whatever, and growth. And the more we can get out there and the more happening, the doing is so important. And I was pleased to see that despite the weather, on page 72, 4.2, when he said 50,000 visitors still turned up for the Sweets Festival, considering the pouring weather we had, a little moan on my part because my choir, Morsley Sing, was going to sing actually on the main stage and it got cried off because of the storms. So that was a shame, but I was so glad to go the next weekend and enjoy such events. And it was such events that I used to come down, as somebody from Essex, I used to come down to Rochester, and I looked at Rochester, and I saw the castle and the cathedral and all the history there. I remember doing a treasure trial, you know, do a quiz when you go, you look at the history around you. There's so much there. So I'm so pleased to hear of your enthusiasm. Whatever you inherited, you're now carrying it on. And of course, it's really important to keep on praising the officers that actually make it happen. However, I think a couple of points that Councillor Lawrence made were, you know, quite valid. It would be ideal, got no idea how feasible it is, that if any organisation arranging something could be self-sufficient, at least to some extent. For any of us that have ever run a business, it's incredibly difficult to have any proper project management, you know, pre-planning for the next 3-5 years when you literally do not know year on year what funding you're going to get, because obviously that's one of your main bases upon which you make your decisions. I also do get it about the rest of Medway. Now, from a purely selfish point of view, Rochester, less than a 10-minute drive. Fantastic. However, I did go to the Mariel event, Puss in the Boots, in January at the Oast House. And even though that was clearly an amateur production, it was literally one of the funniest, laughing with them, especially when they were having a go at Councillor Maple. I started taking the mickey out of him. He really enjoyed that. It was really, really funny and very, very well done. I would like to also echo Councillor Williams' comments about Central Theatre. Great staff there. And if you're lucky, you'll see our Chloe there, serving behind the bar. Yeah, but it's not just those theatres, it's also Medway Little Theatre, again an amateur theatre, they do incredible things, again the staff there, fantastic. And as a keen theatre goer, I'm pleased to see how on page 73 that the decision's been made about Brook Theatre, about that going forward. Fingers crossed that we do get the funding. Appreciate, with all the demands of money, the funding obviously is crucial for any of this. I would like to finish with vocalising my support about celebrating VE Day. Obviously very, very important this year. My father fought in the Royal Navy in the Second World War. I remember he never really talked about what he did when he was in the Navy during the Second World War, but I do remember him telling me about what it felt like on a personal level when it came to VE Day, what that felt like. And history should be something, not only we reflect on it to teach us lessons. And with the rise of Nazism throughout Europe, with the rise of authoritarian governments, for all of us, which I think includes everybody, hopefully in this room, who believe in a liberal democracies, it's really, really important to reflect on these things. I don't think that can be overemphasized. So thank you.
Thank you. Most of your comments were positive feedbacks, which I will take on behalf of our heads of service as well as team members who work very hard. You are absolutely spot on with regards to the Oast House in Raynham, the little theatre. It is something that you need to actually go in person and experience to see how wonderful it is. I have been there myself when I was the mayor, and I hosted an event there inviting guests from all across the southeast as well. And they are an amazing performing group, and I would encourage everybody to also give it a try, because they do roll a number of really, really amazing performances over the year. And also I wanted to mention other activities that are run by communities all across Medway. You might have seen the Luton Archers team doing an amazing job with, you know, the arts that is coming across the Luton area. And also in Rainham, I saw that there were piano concerts that were happening, which again brought in world-class pianists to Medway. So again, I take my hat off to all the individuals, the community champions, the creative artists who work together to build on this exciting journey for Medway to be seen as a as a really wonderful destination for creative arts and culture. And I must not forget to mention Creative Medway. You know, it's an umbrella organization representing majority of our creative artists, and you know, here in Medway, and we're very, very proud of the wonderful work that they did. As you have seen in the report, as part of Culture Fest 2024, they supported or organized around 250 events all across Medway. How wonderful is that? And you know, so I just wanted to mention that as well.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Guru. Most of this is going to be comment. We've just, I feel like I moved and settled in Medway because of your portfolio. Like that's what attracted me to Medway, is its creative and the history and everything. And it's grown. I've been here for 25 years now. But I mean, I remember when I first had the kids here, there was no disabled children's football. We had to go to Maidstone and Ashford. It was before Ancorians, before all that. So it is growing, and it's wonderful to see the pace that it's just really, really growing at. And I feel like we're spreading it now, like just to see that we've got football sessions for vulnerable adults, just warms my heart that we're going to that inclusivity even further. Like, and I would love to see that there's, you know, with the newspapers that we might be doing prescriptions for comedy nights, I feel like getting out and playing football is just so good, you know, and involving the homeless community and everything, and doing this is just wonderful. And I feel that that's what Medway's good at. We're good at coming up with these schemes and in trying to involve everybody and looking after our communities. And on that point, I mean, we mentioned Pride. I was there at the very first Pride, and I feel like Councillor Lawrence, Pride has grown. Medway Council helped, but it's the backing of I'm going to say Hillary, but I mean, I remember the first Pride down on the riverside, and now it's an amazing event that brings so much to the high street every single year. And I don't know, I'm sitting here just as and I'm partaking in it, but you know, everybody's got their rainbows out in the high street, and everyone's getting involved. I mean, is there, you know, everyone's getting people in their shops. It would be nice if they had donation buckets for Pride as well, to give something back to Pride, because I know that they put so much work in it, and it was their dream and their passion to take it from. I remember when it was announced it was going to be in the castle for the first time, and it was brilliant. Yeah. So I do think these other people behind the scenes are working really, really hard. But with Medway's council's backing as well, I'm not taking that away with it. With my ward head on, Strood Library, I went there Monday. It was brimming. There was people on the computers. There was kids singing. It was amazing. It lived up to it being a community hub. Like it was really good. I was there to use their printer, but that's a whole different story. And then lastly, still with my ward hat on, we would love you to come and see the tennis court at Darnley Road. And that's
I've
And
actually been.
I was there, to my shame, I was there and I didn't even know it was there because it was...
I've been there.
And I've been there and spoken to the people playing on the play and how much it means to them. So yeah, so that's me. Carry on doing the good work you're doing because it's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Jackson. One thing that we do really well in Medway is work in partnership, and we might have some established artists or established creative partnership who are more than willing to help others and bring them, supporting their growth as well. That is something that we are strengthening, and with Creative Medway, we're really proud that we are able to spread that umbrella further. I think with regards to the football that you mentioned, that is in terms of inclusivity under Bob's leadership, I think we do have very, very dedicated staff members who are very invested. They don't just take it as a job, they're invested in our communities. And say, for instance, so many of our sports center staff members are actually homegrown type, they came as apprentices. Some of them have risen up to managers and have stayed on, and they're now training the new apprentices. So that's how proud we are of our staff members, not just staying with us, but actually giving back to our communities. That's how much invested they are. And thanks to Bob and all you team members for supporting that journey. And this has happened because they feel valued and supported as well, right? With regards to Medway Pride, I think I just want to make it very clear on behalf of, I'm sure, all of us, that Medway is one unique place here in the Southeast which has got diversity, but we celebrate people's uniqueness, their attributes, and we celebrate each person for who they are, and also we promote that acceptance and valuing the person for what they bring rather than labeling people. So I think we are very proud of our LGBTQIA plus community members here. They are equal part of our community, and we are very happy that Medway Pride is now such an established and hugely popular event in our events calendar. With regards to the Strood Community Hub, again, it is such a happening place, and I've been there for the Repair Cafe, and let me tell you, if people have not experienced Repair Cafe, please do, and please spread the word as well. It is somewhere where, with the cost of living crisis, you can actually get some of your electrical items, repaired for free of charge. And also, it's great that our engineers and mechanics, they feel pride in giving back to the community as well. So it's such a really lovely community space, and there is free tea and coffee as well from the community hub staff members, and it just feels like a really safe and lovely community activity. So and no wonder it is award-winning as well. And now we are going to extend it to Youth Repair Cafe as well, because I have been to some repair cafes where parents have brought younger people, and you can just see the spark in their eyes when they see, let's say, Hoovers being repaired before their eyes or hair dryers being repaired before their eyes, and it just comes to life. And so why not extend it to our youths as well? So well done to our library staff once again for thinking outside the box and really doing these amazing things. Thank you.
I just want to add, I'm going on the 15th of March down to Strood to get my air fryer fixed. It's making a funny noise. So I will be there. And just going back into what you said, I mentioned both my boys at the beginning, so they're in their 30s now. And they were there at the beginning of disabled football, and they both volunteer and run clubs in the disabled league now. So it just goes to show that, you know, you give them confidence and they can go and they give it back in tenfold. So it's amazing. Thanks.
My thanks to the amazing young people. Yeah.
Excellent. And I obviously, as another student councillor, I noticed there are 6 student councillors on the committee tonight. Not that there's a good balance there, but yeah, no, I absolutely agree with those comments. And also on a local note, good to see the underspend on Constant Park used to upgrade facilities there and in Who. And also, again, as we've mentioned previously, but obviously as part of your portfolio, to thank staff at Strood Sports Centre very much for their support over the Christmas period as well. Okay, so the final member I'm going to call in this section will be Councillor Campbell.
Thank you. So it was a great report, very positive, and I'm so delighted that you've managed to save so many festivals and keep them going in spite of all the financial pressures. So I think we still have a pretty strong and diverse offering in your portfolio. That's really positive to see. I just wanted to say that it's particularly exciting and positive to see the investment coming in through grant funds, like the National Lottery Heritage Fund, for example. And actually, as tangentially, Councillor Lawrence was asking about the sustainability thing. So I worked a few years in a charity where we used to receive grants, and actually that sustainability thing is now pretty much embedded in most grant funding. I mean, others can correct me. Isn't that right, Paul? Yeah, so you kind of have to demonstrate that in the paperwork that you do. You have to have some kind of business plan. So I think, yeah, that is the goal of how this funding works. You are supposed to think about it. But as a ward councillor for Fort Pitt, I'm so immensely proud of the intra part of the high street between Rochester and Chatham, just for the offering that they have in terms of heritage and culture and art. And I know they were previously a heritage action zone, and from that, like the community taking ownership of arts and heritage and culture projects. It's such a brilliant case study, what they've done there. And I saw recently that the Chatham Unitarian Church has got some funding to be turned into a community art sort of venue. I've been speaking to the people involved in this, and they've been kind of tinkering around the edges of this idea for quite a while to say, how do we use this church? It doesn't have enough of a congregation on Sundays. So what do we do with it? It's right at the heart of this thing. And it's fantastic that like all those things have sort of aligned for them. And that also brought up to me a conversation I had in Chatham High Street when I was attending an event. Somebody came up and said to me that they use a lot of art venues in Chatham where they have space, like studio space or halls and things where they can collect people together and do workshops with art and stuff like that. But they said they actually live in Gillingham and it's completely barren there. They've got nothing there similarly where they can do community art projects or bring young people together to create something, And they were saying it's all kind of heavily loaded in Chatham and Rochester. Now, I'm obviously happy about it because Fort Pitt is in Chatham and Rochester. So yeah, that pleases me. But I think we need better distribution of this across Medway. And I don't know, maybe if we can all sort of be alert to the possibilities of disused assets and how we can turn them into something more community focused, where we kind of, I see the council as being a very active facilitator for things like that, sort of being on the lookout, that space, this group, these people, this funding, let's bring it all together and let's make something happen. I'm sure you're already doing it, and obviously I know there's a lot of this stuff happening, but I just kind of wanted to add my voice to that because that stuff is really powerful, and people need to take ownership for their own communities as well.
Yes, I totally agree with you. Intra-region is very exciting place where we have lots of creative artists who work together really well. And you're right about, the inter-region actually now being designated a heritage action zone, but it was done because of some very, very invested individuals who formed a consortium and was supported by Medway Council as well to go forward in that journey as well. So I think we are, as far as the council team is concerned, anything like that more than happy to support. Our managers are more than happy to, to have those discussions in terms of how we can support them in their journey. With regards to whether or not the art scene can be spread out a little bit further, of course, that is absolutely my ambition as well for Medway. And as I was saying earlier on, anything to do with funding, we work quite closely, myself, Paul and Bob, as well as the managers as well. So whenever we, let's say, for instance, just this week, the Minister for Culture announced a big pot of money. Before I have even read it, Paul will be texting me saying, like, look, this could be something that we could apply for. And similarly, Bob will be saying, oh, Sports England has announced this, like, we're going to make sure that we apply for that. And my question or request to both of them is, can we make sure it is equally distributed? Having said that, I think with regards to going back to my earlier response, there are certain areas, let's say for Rochester, we have some heritage sites where the Friends of play a key role in maintaining some of the activities there that, because the council doesn't have the money to do that, the funds to do that, we are supporting them to carry out those functions. Likewise, I think there is scope for, let's say, for Gillingham, Love Gillingham team, Gillingham Town Centre Forum, to be a little bit more active in terms of, like, coming up with ideas, like you said, about disused spaces. Can we maybe do an audit of where are the disused spaces, in terms of proximity, in terms of accessibility, how does that, is that feasible? I think if those studies are done, and if, again, the council teams can play a part in supporting that, absolutely more than happy to make sure that the love is spread throughout Medway.
Thank you. On the spreading of love in Medway, I think it's now time to go to my Vice Chair for a proposal.
Thank you very much. The committee's asked to note the report, and then I've got the specific action, just the request to share the link about the internet safety policies at the library, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Thank you. Is that agreed? Agreed. Okay, I propose a comfort break of 10 minutes before the next item of business. you all. Okay, so the next item is the property review operational properties. This item will be presented by Sunny E and Noel Filmer. Noel is not here. No, David England. Absolutely. So thank you. Thank you for presenting this paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This is the second phase of the property review that we undertook. And obviously we were before overview and scrutiny last year in the presentation of the non-operational properties, which have been taken further. So this is, as I said, this is the second phase, and this is to look at the operational properties of the council currently use, and the forefront is to consider whether these are best kept, comparing their running costs compared to the income that we would lose and the capital that would be generated and then fed back into the council. So the recommendation is that the properties will be classed as surplus. Further investigation will be undertaken, and there will be we have listed those properties within the paper, and there is a second section where we will be asking the Cabinet and obviously yourselves that we will be wanting to take further consultation on a group of properties including Upnor Castle and some public toilets. Anything else we need? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. With permission of the committee, Tony Rana, Director of Sabina Care and Take Care Limited, would like to make representations to the panel. With your agreement, can he make such representations? Thank you. Okay, Tony, would you like to come up? Actually, I don't think we've prepped the timer, have we? Is it 5? Okay. Thank you for attending tonight. We'll give you 5 minutes to make a representation, and we'll let you know 30 seconds before the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Tony Rana, and I'm the Director of 2 businesses based at Hopewell Business Centre in Chatham. Both businesses are care businesses serving Medway and Regeneration area, employing 50 staff. I'm here to represent all the businesses in Hopewell, who are predominantly start-up businesses serving the Medway area. These businesses have survived COVID and the current cost of living crisis, and through the help of the low rents that Medway Council charge for start-ups, they've all thrived. The businesses vary from a goldsmith to condiment supplier, and care businesses and hog feast, ready repair people and such. So it's quite a varying number of businesses in 20 units across 2 floors. As you're aware, with the up-and-coming rise in employers' NI rates and a minimum wage increase, businesses are going to have a tough time surviving, especially in the care sector, which has the lowest payment rates from councils. So our margins are very tight, to say the least, but we provide what I call the 4th service, emergency service. I've only owned the businesses or run the business for the last 4 years, but I come from a telecoms background and working for BTE and as such for the last 35 years. The care industry is vital as far as I'm concerned, in that we provide not only care for individuals but also respite and also fighting dementia and loneliness. And if our businesses were to go under, then there'd be severe pressures on the local hospitals, the trusts, and social services. We've already seen how social services are overstretched, both in Medway and in Gravesham, and that trying to get hold of a social worker can take up to 2 to 3 months, even if you're in a very critical state of need. With the focus from the government on growth, I feel that selling the premises is short-term fix for Medway financial position, as support for small business will be more fruitful to councils in the long term. I understand your predicament as a councillor, as a fellow councillor from Gravesham. Yes. I sit on the same boards actually as what you have in Gravesham, so I understand exactly what predicaments you're in. And looking at commercial viability is critical in these days and times with all the cuts that local government has received, so fully aware. And we only passed our budget yesterday at full council, so the numbers are really very tight. But I feel that investment in local businesses will help create more jobs, which only helps the exchequer with the tax and such. And with social care, especially with the care sector that I work in and run the two businesses, we are definitely under the cosh when it comes to costs. So if the Hopewell can stay within the Medway Council's portfolio, it'd be much appreciated. So that's what I can say. Thank you for my time, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the representation. Would any other members of the committee like to speak on this, please? Any members? Or speak on their item.
Sorry, Chair, are you talking about the total property item or about this particular issue?
Around the whole item. Around the whole item.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I've some concerns about the disposal of the car park at Albatross Avenue, Strood. I don't wish to stray into the exempt appendices to the meeting chair, or the exempt papers that have been submitted to the meeting, I should say, but I do think it would be useful if before that sale went to Cabinet, discussion were held between the local members, the relevant portfolio holders and the officers who are here tonight, both property and sport, to discuss the wider issue as to how that sale fits in to the use of the playing fields and the state of the current state of the pavilion, Chair. You know, if that could be agreed by the committee in the form of words that the Vice Chair uses in summing up, and would if I'm favour, before it goes to Cabinet, while these consultations that Mr England is talking about are going on and the diversity impact assessment is being drawn up, you know, if a meeting could be held to discuss this particular one a little bit further, I'd be extremely grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Councillor Etheridge.
Thank you very much. It's a matter of clarification, really. There's two items on here. One regarding Upnor Castle, which it states quite clearly that it's not owned by Medway Council, but they manage the events there. So I'm just trying to understand, if you're just managing the events, what is it that you intend to sell?
We're not actually intending to sell the building because we don't own it. We are looking to hand back the agreement to English Heritage so that we don't hold the costs of running the property. So it is an unusual situation, but as was raised earlier in the previous paper, that a lot of the visitors there are English Heritage members. So actually we don't derive a lot of income from that, but we bear all the costs of running it. So it's, you know, it is a rather inequitable situation that English Heritage own the property, but we pay for the costs, and they obtain further benefit from the memberships that they receive. So it is a slightly different situation, but that's...
Okay, for the sake of clarity, then that needs to be put in the paperwork so people are fully aware what it is you're attempting to do. Further down, you're talking about the public toilets, Cooling Village Hall, Main Road, Cooling. And then in brackets, these are not council owned. So can you have some clarification on that, please?
Yes, so these four properties, 1.1.2.1 going to 1.1.2.4, we are asking Cabinet for us to have powers to consult on the situation. So whereas we're not saying that we own all of these. We are looking to divest ourselves of operational properties. We don't necessarily need to own them to be able to request consultation to divest ourselves of the responsibility and the costs of running them.
Can we just clarify that further? What costs are involved in running these at the moment?
There will be the services, there will be cleaning, there will be utilities, there will be rates. So they're all costs that we have to bear. Obviously, the intention with all of these, particularly the public toilets, is for them to be handed and be run by the local parish councils or friends of the properties, so that they are possibly the best placed to run them. No, we want to consult with them to make sure that we can maintain the facility, because the facility is very important, but it will be better run by people who are more local to that.
Okay. You are aware that Coolin Parish Council has got zilch in its funds, and it's got absolutely nothing in its funds at all to be able to run this. And I'm just concerned that if for whatever reason you decide to close these down, considering this is a highly used set of toilets, because it is a tourist area for the church and anything else, the council will be paying additional money for anything else that's deposited on the side of the road because of it.
I appreciate that, Councillor. That's why we have not asked to declare these properties surplus in this regard. We've asked to have the power to consult with interested local parties. So I think at the moment we've tried to actually put this into a more special category, because we appreciate that these are unusual properties that we are asking to divest ourselves of, and the way that we should do it properly is to consult. We would obviously, in a normal place, we would consult before having to declare them surplus or come to such a situation. But the governance is to consult, and then we can come back and make proper recommendations, and then it will be for councillors to decide as to whether that is something that should be taken forward.
Yeah. And finally, it's not within your list, and I shall be asking the same question to the next portfolio holder that comes before us this evening. The old vicarage children's home has been abandoned for over 2 years at Upper Upnor now. Just what's happening with that? Oh, we own it.
That's Alt Even, is that correct?
It's what, sorry?
Alt Even, is that the property?
No.
The one at Upnor.
Upnor.
Oh, Upnor. Yes, I'm saying as this is, I believe that is being brought back into operation, but that is not. It isn't. That's something with children's services that would need to be referred to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any? Actually, Councillor Williams. Apologies. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Chair. I just want to speak about the disposal of the Lower Stoke car park. I'm concerned it's not going for consultation, as it would be good for residents to express their views and concerns about the car park. I know it's only a car park, but as you see from the statement from the parish council I've just distributed, it's more than the car park to the local residents and is a focal point of the village. Both the residents and the parish council are worried that this extremely valuable asset might be lost. I think a consultation would give more balanced view to the need to keep this car park for the good of the local community. And I would like to propose that this car park goes to consultation so local residents and the parish council can air their views and concerns before any decision is made by Cabinet. Thank you.
Yep, so Vice Chair just wanted to come as clarification.
Just a point of interest really, in terms of the letter, there's specific mention of Peninsula East Primary, so I just need to, for transparency, say that I'm a senior leader in Lee Academies Trust, which is obviously the multi-academy trust that runs Peninsula East. So because it's mentioned by name, for transparency, I just checked with Nicola that I just mentioned that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to come to David and Sonny just a second. Councillor Williams, are you making a recommendation to go in? And then that would be a formal consultation, or would it be similar to... Sorry, do you want to turn your mic on?
Yeah, I know they're going to be consulting with the parish council, but if we could do a consultation with the local residents just to get a feel of how they feel about it. It just seems like we're selling off a car park, but as you see from the statement, it's a little bit more than that. So I thought it might be go to consultation before Cabinet make a decision on that.
I suppose, so you're asking for the recommendation to be full public consultation, or... Because obviously Councillor Jones is around informal consultation with the local ward members. I'm just wondering whether informal consultation with the parish council might be an initial stage. Yes, sorry. I'm just aware that... actually, could you come to clarification? Can you come to clarification here, Sonny? Because there is... What is the relationship between the proposal that's in this paper and interested parties, such as the parish council?
I mean, David can confirm the exact relationship, but what I would suggest is that if you are going to move to a consultation and that's what you want to look at, it would make sense to talk to the parish first, because if there's no issue and the parish is going to keep it open, there would be no need to go out to the residents. So I would suggest, if this is what the board is going to look at it from a two-phase perspective. I'll let David clarify the relationship, and then therefore you can make your decision.
I think Sonny's put it quite clearly. I think where we will be consulting with the with the parish and with the parish councils, and if there is a suitable alternative body, then we will obviously consult with them prior to, and as you say, if there's no opposition because there'll be a transfer, then the asset will be retained, and that should be sufficient from a public interest point of view.
Councillor Williams, does that give reassurances?
Yeah, I spoke to Noel earlier in the week, and he said you will be discussing this because the council actually lease it off you, didn't they? So yeah, I'll be happy with that, I think. But if when you have discussions with the parish council, if they feel like you need to consult the local residents, I would like that to be brought forward at a later date. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think, and that would work with a similar turn of words as Councillor Jones is proposing.
And also, could you keep the local councillors up to date on it, what's going on with the discussions and that, if you could, on that one? Yeah?
Yes, I think once this has passed through Cabinet, I think that may be the most appropriate time for us to go and talk to them. So, because obviously Cabinet could turn around and say, no, you're not going to do this. So if that's agreeable, Councillor Williams, no will be put on the case.
Right, thank you.
Sorry, I just want to clarify something. Is Councillor Jones, was your recommendation for these informal discussions before or after Cabinet? That they were before, were they?
They were before. I mean, if officers want to comment on that, Chair, it's entirely,
just
entirely up to you.
Square the circle of the recommendation.
So I can understand you may want to think, well, let's take it out of the paper and take it completely off the discussion. But I will remind the board, obviously, that we're doing this because we should do this in terms of looking at our assets. We're also told specifically by SITFA as part of our review of our finances that we need to look at things. As we explained in detail in the non-ops discussion, there's quite a clear formula that's been used around, if you like, hitting a magic percentage in terms of whether or not it's worth more keeping it than selling it. But I'll also remind you as well that this is, although it's declared a surplus, that can change. So obviously, whether it would be through consultation and decision we decide now is not the right time, or whether it would be actually somehow there's an increase in value, a decrease in costs of managing it, and therefore the arrangement may remain the same. So from an officer perspective, we would recommend that you keep it as a declared surplus, but we are happy if you want us to do so, to consult with the parish council and if necessary consult the public before any decision is made to bring it to corporate landlord board for actual disposal. So that would be how the paper is set up. If you obviously want to vote on something different and pull it out of the paper, just for your clarity, that would then be a very specific decision around pulling it out of the paper now. So I'll leave you to determine how you want to take that forward.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's just been clear that what we would do. Oh, Councillor Williams, you're coming in.
Yeah, I just thought, would the consultation with the parish council be before it goes to cabinet? Because once it goes to cabinet, it's a done deal sort of thing.
No, it wouldn't be. With all due respect, what I would suggest is that we move this into the table, which is with Upnor Castle. So we're basically, cabinet will ask officers to undertake consultation concerning that. So then it will have to be brought back to a future cabinet meeting. So that way we can have the consultation, because the thing is, otherwise you'll rush a consultation trying to do that prior to cabinet. But what we do is that we will bring those two properties into the same category as the Upnor Castle and the public toilets, so that we would have the proper consultation on that basis. So I think that would be a more workable situation, and that will allow people to think about it more rather than trying to rush it through. So that's why I think that would be the best situation, but would give you the comfort that it's been properly consulted.
So I think what we've got here actually, so we've got 3 sites which are in the top table, which essentially are saying they go to cabinet and they pass straight through, and we've got a second table that says these are subject to more consultation. There's 3 particular sites here that we are interested in, which is the car park in Albatross Avenue, which is the, so I'm just getting the quite correct, the car park at Lowestoke, and finally the public representation that we've had here, which is Hopewell Drive, as the 3 that would require further consultation. Now, we've obviously got some other representations coming into it. Does anyone want to make a representation on the point of potentially that a proposal might be from the committee to move those 3 specific sites from table 1 to table 2? Does anyone answer? Do you want to come in on that, David?
Yeah, sorry, I thought, obviously we were just talking about the car parks.
Yeah.
We're not talking about Hopewell, are we?
Well, we can. Okay, so the two car parks. Okay, I think the question is whether Hopewell. Does the committee have a view or representation of whether we should remain in the existing and propose that paper as written, or is the feeling of the committee that we move it elsewhere? That specific site, because obviously that's slightly different, obviously, in the matter. Yeah.
So before doing so, thank you for coming and making your representation. Before you make your decision on whether or not to include Hopewell Drive, the only thing I wanted to offer was we can look at, so we don't think that that's a site that will be converted to, for example, residential, and we can make sure that there's a covenant in there to prevent it from being residential. So anyone who bought it, 2 things. 1, we would try and ensure that it would remain as office space. And 2, any existing leases would be honoured. So we wouldn't be selling it, wiping them out. But I appreciate at some point those leases will end, and obviously another negotiation has to begin. So I'm not saying it necessarily allays all of your fears around the future and what a future owner would do, but we would put a covenant in to prevent it from being converted into housing, for example, so it would be office space for businesses, and any existing leases would have to be honoured as part of that sale. So I just wanted to add that as a factor and as a response. That's all.
Okay, on that specific point,
just
Councillor.
on the Hopewell, yeah, I'm glad you made that clarification, because that should give some comfort in the short term for the business tenants. But what's the special deal with the Unison and GMB? No, I'm just asking why they get in some sort of different treatment than the other tenants.
Yeah, sorry, I think that's something of a historical nature that they were granted in previous times, that it was felt that the union office should be away from Gun Wharf to give privacy to potential employees, and but that, as I understand, was something that was granted prior to, back in the last 5 or 10 years.
Sorry, does the union pay for the rent of the space, or does the council?
Well, they don't pay, so we don't pay. We will obviously look at whether they should stay there or whether we can find them property within the council portfolio, which will, hopefully save money. But we have a duty to provide them, as I understand it, to provide them with accommodation.
Just to add to that, sorry, that then basically provides a clean title. So that's why, if you like, that was a loose end. If we were going to try and sell it on to someone else, we wouldn't then leave them with the task of finding them appropriate accommodation. So that cleans up the title.
But in the interim, you will, if you move the union out, you'll find new tenants for that space in the interim, so that we've got a dead cost in terms of business rates.
We would try and make as smooth a transition as possible, and ideally, if there was a sale, probably do it then, or like you said, have an interim tenant.
I must declare I am a member of Unison at this point, obviously. If the assurances are okay, continue, but I will, just in the sake of transparency. Councillor Williams, just on, is it specifically to this point?
Yeah, I'll be happy for that to move from one category to the other, so we can have a proper consultation. That'd be fine.
Yeah, okay, cool. And Councillor Doe, you've been indicating, is it a part of this part of business? Yeah.
I'm very concerned about two of the items on here, and I just wanted to be assured, really, that the full, the full measure of this has been actually considered. I mean, we've just built the Britton Farm Street development, and this presumably refers to the Undercroft, where everybody parks. Now, I think if we were to sell this off, presumably the only way you're going to sell this off is to someone who's going to put up the charges, to be frank. And I think that this is, this could have a really reverse effect. For example, on the further education function that's based there, which, people will come in there. I think we have a rather deleterious effect too upon Gillingham High Street generally. And I just think I don't know whether this has all been thought out and discussed and so on, but it's this kind of intangible that I think we've got to get a grip on, because we're trying very hard, as I understand it, to, and I think it's something we tried, and it's something which I know the Labour group is trying, is to upgrade Gillingham High Street, etc. And you don't upgrade it, surely, by selling off a car park or making a car park which is vague. If they were keeping the charges the same, I don't see how they get any money out of it. And I think that's the thing. And I think really, these are the kind of facilities that we've got to keep if we want that to be a thriving high street. And I think it's really, really bad. And also, I think there may be certain, for the council properties that are in the other part, I'm not sure whether they are also parked there or not, but it needs to be looked into properly. But I really do think that when you're trying to invest in Gillingham High Street, the last thing you want to do is to sell off the best car park that will be there, and also to have a serious effect on your further education function, because it will. And I'll also copy or also say similar remarks about the Brook multi-storey car park in Chatham. What is that going to do to Chatham as a shopping destination? If you think it through, and maybe I haven't thought it through, maybe you've got some other ideas, but surely the only reason to sell these car parks, if I want to buy that as a car park, then presumably my only option there is to charge more to make some money out of it. And I think this is the kind of thing that will kill your shopping centres. I'm just very concerned about this, and I'm not sure whether it's been thought through, but no doubt, Sonny, you can reassure me.
Thank you. Just to say, we were talking about the recommendations specifically, and the general debate about the paper we will continue. So I've slightly taken the contribution for the general debate on the paper a little bit earlier there, but I'll let officers to come back on that on that side specifically.
Thank you, Councillor Doe. The situation with Britton Mall Farm, we agreed for the non-operational decision last year, which was to sell or for us to declare Britton Mall Farm surplus and that we will then, that will be part of the non-operational disposal programme. We couldn't include the car park because it was an operational property because it's run by parking. So it does actually tidy up the two. To give your point about the adult education centre, that will be excluded from any sale so that we will be able to retain that property.
No, I wasn't, sorry, let's be clear, I wasn't talking about that, any idea you might have of saying the further education part. What I'm saying is that it isn't much good having a further education centre if you take the car park away. You know, the one that is designed to serve it, surely. I mean, all I'm really trying to see is to make sure that when we do this, we actually look at the side effects of it, because I think they're going to way outweigh any considerations of selling it. And the same, I think, appears to be for the Brook multi-storey car park. And I'd like to see an awful lot more work done on this to convince me, frankly, and I'm sure my colleagues, that actually this is a sensible value thing. I mean, all what you might be doing is taking pennies for this and then actually giving it into the hands of some fairly rapacious car park owners who then ratchet it all up, and we sit there saying, why is our shopping centre dying? Why aren't people going to adult education anymore? You know, well, the answer is because we might have done this. So, I mean, until you clear that away, I can't see how you can possibly entertain doing this. I don't care what they've declared. They need to think again.
Just to respond, so I understand the concern there, but also there is a market. So in terms of selling it, in terms of Britton Farm Mall, and then as David described, tidying it up, because it would be very awkward to then retain the car park. It's very difficult from a property perspective. It is Gillingham, so anybody who buys this needs to be eyes open, would hopefully have enough commercial common sense to know, for example, they can't start charging £5 an hour, for example, parking there. So we have to have some faith in the market that they will price it correctly, because if they don't, nobody will use it. So, for example, we have the private car park in Chatham next to the ex-Debenhams. That's priced appropriately. That's what we would hope in terms of any new provider coming in. Otherwise, quite simply, their business would fall over. So I appreciate your concern, and I understand the potential risk. Happy again when we get to that point. So again, this is about declaring it surplus. If there are other considerations when we go back to corporate landlord board, this might be one of them, or it might be that suddenly there's an influx of people that want to, you know, the income from that car park rises, etc. We can review that. But in terms of it declaring it surplus on that basis that the market needs to find its feet, otherwise it won't survive. So there's an element of that market basically pricing it correctly for the area. We're relatively confident that would be okay, but understood, and we'll make a note of that, and we can take that back.
I think the same is true probably of the Brook as well. You know,
so,
I just don't want to blindly go into something and then find that we've done something.
Sorry, is your microphone on? Sorry, can you speak into the microphone, please, Councillor Day?
So that's what my concern is, not to, you know, all the work that we're doing in the area, in both cases. You know, this could be a very sort of thoughtless way, if you like, to really wreck it. And I think it really does need an awful lot more thought. I don't know what my colleagues think, but I think it definitely does really needs to be taken as a major factor. I'm very doubtful with this.
So just on the multi-storey car park, obviously there's a huge amount, you'll be aware obviously that it's for the past however many years there's been a threat of, obviously in terms of concrete, slow degradation over time. With every year we're patching it up. It's safe, and we're doing a structural survey every year, etc. But the time will come when that will need significant, in the millions, amount of investment. So obviously that's why it's made it to this board, that's why it's making it to the Cabinet, because it's a huge cost for the future. However, obviously, even if that car park were to be sold privately, or if indeed it were to be demolished and developed in the future by somebody, potentially, you have got the Pentagon car park as well. So don't forget, it won't be the whole of it gone. There will still be a central to our asset in terms of the shopping centre, parking facilities, and other parking elements around Chatham, which broadly looking at working with integrated transport and local planners, there's a feeling that there's enough capacity of parking. But it's not definite yet, but in terms of declaring it surplus, it's definitely in the red flag area around how much it will cost us if we hang on to it indefinitely. But absolutely understand your concerns, but it may not just be a car park or private, there may be other options, and there is capacity. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so just to bring this debate back together, so obviously we've had a discussion on some of the potential changes and recommendations that when we come to the final proposal, we are now in a general debate. I had Councillor Lawrence to speak in the general debate now, so if we can go into that. Thank you. Who? Thank you very much. Councillor, don't you? Thank you very much for attending. Hopefully for those. Councillor Lawrence.
Thank you, Chair. It's almost like torture making a man sit there. I hear just a comment. I hear what Councillor Doe's saying. I think they're valid, but equally we do have an issue that we couldn't afford to deal with the costs of repair. And it's such a difficult one because so much money is being poured into the town centre that, you know, we've still got to find ways of attracting people to town centre. My question was really about the non-operational assets. There's an element to this report updating us with where we are on that. And the report's nice and clear, but I'm just wondering, when will we start marketing some of these properties? I know some of them there are things happening and going on, but so it's been October, so we've been 4 or 5 months. When do you expect to start operating? And a little bit of crystal ball gazing, David, in terms of what we think the commercial market looks like at the moment, and are we going to realise the values that we hope we're going to realise? Because obviously the budget for next year does depend on quite a bit of capital receipt in order to drive down the enormous cost of the interest. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll use this one. That's fine, thank you. In terms of the progress of the non-operational side, we have procured commercial property advice. We are starting to engage with that, with those agencies. So we are awaiting their formal advice as to values and methods of sale. So that has taken a bit of time because we had to go through procurement, and that has been finalised now. So in terms of crystal ball gazing, the commercial property market is not particularly in the best of health at the moment, I would say. But I think that's fairly well understood. This is where we will work very hard with the agents to actually get the best price and then compare it to the alternative side of keeping property. If we feel that we don't hit the benchmarks that we have set ourselves, and the corporate property board will have to be convinced that that is right to sell the properties. So this is not a fire sale. We made that very clear to people, and that we must get the best value reasonably attainable to meet our statutory requirements.
Thank you. Next I have Councillor Campbell. Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Cook.
Yeah, thank you. Just really briefly, in the interest of debate, without going over specifics, I personally felt that this was a very logical process. I thought from the maps and knowledge of the areas that I could see other facilities that could be used to service residents. I thought that the logic and the fail-safes that have just been reassured to us made me feel very reassured. So I just wanted to put on record, because we were having a really open debate about different views on it, that I felt quite comfortable with what had been proposed here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for that information there, and for the information provided by officers tonight. I think it's, you know, a number of these assets, you know, there are, particularly for those areas that are slightly further outside Medway, actually there's a bit more concern on them, and I think it's good that if we're taking up those recommendations, that would provide, you know, for those communities a bit of a bit of ownership over some of those policies. But overall, it's clear Medway Council needs to follow SIPFA's recommendations, and we need to get on with some of those recommendations that are about fixing our finances so we could continue to deliver for our residents and to make sure that we are in control of our own destiny. So I do thank you for bringing that paper. With that, I would like to ask the Vice Chair to make recommendations, please. Hopefully you've got them all. Start.
For some feedback. So we'll have a practice go. Right. So I'll read the recommendations, but then a couple of amendments, if that's the right way round, Nicola. So the committee is asked to make and submit comments on the proposals set out in the report. To note that Cabinet will be asked to approve the recommendations set out in sections 1.1.1 to 1.1.4 of the report on 11th of March 2025. And the committee is requested to note the information set out in section 1.2 of the report. But I believe we've got two additional recommendations. One, the request to move the Albatross Avenue car park and Lower Stoke car park into be included with the items in section 1.1.3, which will ensure further consultation. If I've got that correct. And secondly, can I check that we wanted that Hopewell Drive is to include a covenant on the specification to ensure that it's kept as business space and the existing lease is honoured? Is that an appropriate wording for what we've discussed as a committee?
Lower Stoke, was that technically in your recommendations?
I've got Lower Stoke and Albatross Avenue.
Perfect. That's just for Nicola's benefit to make sure it's written as correctly. And officers have indicated that the final recommendation about Hopewell isn't acceptable in terms of our position. So I think that can be moved.
That's the recommendations then.
That can be proposed. Does anyone want to second that? Who would like to second it?
I'm happy to second, Chair.
Thank you very much. Is that all those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4. 8. All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. 3. I count there. Thank you very much. We move on to the next business, which is the work programme, and Nicola will introduce this item as I see her desperately typing.
The work programme is attached to Appendix A to the report for members' information, and Section 4.2 highlights any changes that have been made since the last meeting. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Any member? Thank you. Can Vice Chair make a proposal?
I've written all over it. The committee is asked to note the report and agree the work programme as set out Appendix A to the report, and the committee is asked to note the action log as set out at Appendix B to the report.
Is that seconded? Thank you. Is that approved? Agreed. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much for tonight's meeting, and I look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow.
you.